we can explore them. So like places, I want to see Makalani Woods. I want to know what has happened to the woods. The woods has been getting slowly degradation and going and fading away, as they say. Is it just going to be an empty space there, or is something else going to be there in the woods that we didn't find or see before? Because the woods are rather big. I know the game makes it seem small, but there's, I'm sure, uncharted wood area that you couldn't access, and maybe a temple's over there or something. And that coincides with the Makalani Lake. Also, I want to see what's going on with the lake, because we did find those ruins at the bottom of the lake, and there's a giant hole there. So that can be further explored as an area as a whole. As well as, speaking of temples, Requiem Temple over there in the Calmlands. What's going on with that? Is that turning into something else? Are the chocobo races going to be there a little bit, better as like an activity to do? I think that might be a good place to explore, because we didn't really see it too much in Final Fantasy X2. And the big one, Bevelle. Bevelle needs to be fully explorable and, a real location for us to go. There's no reason we didn't do it in X2. I don't know why. I'm just not sure, because they still had this stigma, I believe. But in X3, I want that stigma to be lifted off of Bevelle, the town, and the people of Bevelle. We never really got to see the real people of Bevelle. We know that they're struggling. There are a lot of old people in Bevelle with old money, and they're struggling because of the change. I want to feel that in X3 because of all the technology. And I was talking about the Hypello, the underwater locations of where the Hypello might be. They kind of coincide with each other. And the big one, Under the Sand of Bikanel. The sands are always moving, and I have a theory about the Bikanel, especially why all of the Machina always attacked home, because those Machina were sent from Bevelle to attack the Al Bhed, who were aligned with Zanarkand in the war. So it might have been production factory, something out there in the Al Bhed, because the Al Bhed were workers, they are machines. The lowest class are Al Bhed, but there were two other classes, Affinity for magic and like the bosses. So I think there's a lot more to Bikanel that we really need to see. Maybe a whole ruined scape city or something, factories or something down there in the desert would be nice to see. So speaking of like activities like that chocobo racing, Blitzball, I want it to be more like Final Fantasy X. However, I will hold judgments on that until Final Fantasy XIV. It drops their Blitzball version, which I am excited about, needless to say. But I definitely want to see Blitzball. I don't really need the multiplication adding game. I don't really need Sphere Break. Not necessarily one of the games I thoroughly enjoyed. But here's the next topic, relations. Now these are relations between characters or otherwise. So I want more explanation on the Keenock-Auron relationship. A lot more, as to say the turn in character shifts, the time Keenock figured everything out was a lie yet still sided with them. I want to see more than that, and I guess I should stay outright. As much as I had wanted a Auron Braska Jecht story, I don't think that story works so well anymore, given all of the novella, audio drama, and that last mission. I don't think that story works anymore, and I don't think that's the Spira I necessarily need to see. I do want to see that Spira because it was so old school and traditional, and there wasn't change, and things were as they were, and that idea and topic though was expressed in 10 enough that you felt that old school and the new school coming in, that I don't think we need that anymore. So I want them to tell that story of those three over again in a new way, even though I don't need Jecht necessarily to be this sin that comes back. I think that every sin was different, and I can point to reasons why. Our sin, like that little sphere ball, it floated in a water pool, like for a Blitzball. And that's just one of the things that makes, I think, every sin unique, because our sin, like the Hymn of the Faith. So I really do believe every sin is different, and I proposed that idea many years ago, but just never got it out there to the masses. A big one here in terms of the novella. I figured out that, in reading the novella, that, and even you could deduce this from the main games, there are certain bases and remnants left from the war that we never really realized. We just assumed that the ruins and all were from a period of long ago where, it was, and then they just got destroyed, or they were from 500 years ago and got destroyed. I think there's more evidence to denote that there were bases, military installments, when I say bases, on Besaid, Beaconell, the Thunder Plains, the Calmlands, Gagaset, and Mehan High Road, and those are at the very least. We explore secondary bases and dungeons in all of those areas I just mentioned, some with security locks, some with defensive measures, some were strategic locations for a war to take place. For example, Cuba, in a real life example for the U.S. and I don't even know, what was it, Germany? So those are the base idea. I want you to try to keep that in your head. But we're sticking back to the relations really quick. Seymour and Bearlie. I want a little bit more of Seymour and Bearlie. I need to trust Bearlie a little bit more and know he's really of the people and not just this older generation guard trying to slow down the progress Spear is trying to make. Because Seymour took Bearlie under his wing kind of and hit him and it's shocking to think about, but that's what happened. A little side story. I want Cid and Nadalia to be together. But that leads a question into Riku's mom. Don't really know much about that. They're cousins. We don't really know much about that, but it'd be nice to get. And then Shuyin and Titus is the big clear one. We understand Len and Yuna, but Titus is a different character, and I know it's Titus because he is an unsent, a beckoned figure, a phantom, however you would like to discuss and talk about him. He's a dream of the faith. So his roots in reality are a lot different than Yuna and Len per se, who she felt it through the dress sphere. Remember, Shuyin took over the people in the cave in the Mushroom Rock Road. But I just need a little bit more explanation to that to tie that up nicely, because I know the story changed from Shuyin was initially going to be Titus, but that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. If you were trying to pass, and I'm glad they didn't do that, because it doesn't make sense that would be Titus, given that Titus doesn't know it that much. But that's just, those relations could be expanded on a lot more. Sin's arrival, I would like to see a new, different kind of Sin, because he got beckoned by someone else who had strong memories of Sin and wanted Sin. So it's not Titus. Titus doesn't want to see Jecht as Sin, and he's on the power of a summoner. But a different summoner could have pulled their father, for example, and he was a Sin before Braska or anything. Because I mentioned in a video that people will most likely see at least 2 Sins in their lifetime. Considering that is what we can go off of what happened in our games. There were people alive who saw 2 Sins. So who knows about that? The Kinder Guardians, I want them to have evolved to the Kinder Corpse. I'm kind of just like naming some things now with no necessarily we got into and the clear, I guess not clear, but all throughout Final Fantasy X we thought there was only one Shoopuf. And it turns out in Final Fantasy X2, I found another Shoopuf and another Shoopuf, and there were more. So I'm unclear as to the gravity and weight that line about all of these Shoopuf are extinct from the audio drama carries, because there were multiple Shoopufs in Final Fantasy X2. So I need that to be a little bit more fleshed out. It could have been an error in terms of, not 100% remembering that X2 had that Shoopuf, since it wasn't necessarily key to the plot. though to stress on it, I need that to be refleshed out and you know, expanded on, because for it to carry that weight, it needs that clarity.
Yo, it's the Grown Kid Talk Show.